Can the headphones sound good? The mic sounds good to you?
Yeah.
We're recording.
Recording. Season 2.
Okay.
This is so exciting.
All right. So 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Shift Chats, conversations with Eric Stewart. Unplug to recharge, the power of rest and strategic downtime. We live in a world that glorifies hustle, but what if I told you that the key to lasting success isn't more work, but more rest? Picture a smartphone constantly running without ever being recharged. Eventually, this thing dies, right? The same goes for us. We need to be able to unplug in order to power up. In today's episode, we'll talk about the importance of rest and how to incorporate strategic downtime into your busy life. Here's a question for you. When was the last time you truly unplugged? It's time to shift your mindset and embrace rest as part of your success strategy. Let's get into this episode of Shift Chats with my guest, Eric Stewart. Welcome to Shift Chats. I am Clarendria Addison, author, therapist, and your host, taking you on this journey of wellness, mental health, growth, entrepreneurship, and all the things. Today, I'm going to say a friend of mine,
Yes.
Mr. Eric Stewart. Out the Box Healing is his social media, and you can share other ones that you have. I'm going to read because he is absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
He has alternative and holistic health care. He's a Reiki master, nervous system psychic, helps you release trauma and chronic illness. And we met about a year and a half ago. I got referred to you. So I've experienced the Reiki master. And I need to go back. So we'll talk about that some other time. But so I had went to some event and met a young lady. I don't even remember her name, but she referred me to you. I think she still comes to you as well. And we still kind of talk here and there on like Instagram and stuff.
Okay.
And so when I had heard about Reiki and was like, that's something I want to try. And we had a really intense experience.
Yeah, that's gonna be.
Very intense experience. But it was definitely what I needed at the time.
Definitely.
And so I feel like for me, I'm sorry, this is real life. and that's the kids calling me on FaceTime. So let me clear them. This is so funny, but this is real life.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna go and do not disturb. So I asked you to send me a picture, and people are always like, "What do I need to send a picture for?"
Yeah.
And I say in the message, "Don't overthink it," and everybody's like, "But I don't know what to send." So you sent me a picture of you. It looks like you might have been, I don't know, 15, 17.
I think 18 maybe.
Okay. And so the question is, what would you tell 18-year-old Eric Stewart II?
Tap into your gifts. Early on. Yeah.
Right. Early on. And do you feel like, obviously I know life, it gets in all of our way, but do you feel like now that you're looking back, were there some things that you experienced then that you feel like, hey, maybe if I would have been a little more tapped in, I wouldn't have, like I could have connected sooner?
100%. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have had all those injuries and stuff, right? I wouldn't have had to go through the things that I went through, but also I think if I didn't go through those things, would I be here in this place right now too as well? So I don't really have any regrets of going through anything. But if I was to tell my 18, self, I would say, hey, just tap into your gifts.
Yeah, I love that. Because we often don't do that.
Yeah.
And we're often like trying to do what everybody else wants
100%.
us to do. So that's one of the things, like when I have, consults and discovery calls or whatever you want to call them with people. And they're like, oh, I was thinking about, and I'm always like, well, what's the hesitation behind, I'm reminding people to go back to childhood. Like I recently posted a video of me like swinging on a swing. Like we have to tap back into who we were before the world got a hold of us.
Yes, 100%.
That's like the biggest, and once you do that, it's kind of like, oh, I remember. I even was having a conversation a couple of days ago, and somebody was like, oh my God, I like what you're doing with the podcast, and like, where did that come from? Did you always want to? And when I thought about it, I always wanted to be Oprah.
Oh, okay,
Now I'm not saying I want to be Oprah now, but I know it's a lot of controversy and stuff going on. But just the speaking part of it, right? And then I think about being hushed as a kid, and I've probably shared a bit of this before, but just about when you're younger, and I was so smart, right? So people are like, oh my God, she talks too much, she thinks she knows everything, and I remember my older sister always being like, no, she's just smart, like she's not fast, she's just really smart. So kind of being shushed at an early age kept me from using my voice. So. Yeah.
Makes sense.
I'm not gonna cry.
Now you can let it out. Right?
This is good for Jonathan though, because he's like, I'm looking for all the clips of you crying. I pretty much cry every podcast. So,
gosh.
But I did good. I made it through this one. The experience was something that it's one of those things that like if you don't do it, you won't ever know.
100%. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'll let you, like, I'm not going to get into all of mine. So maybe at some point we'll dabble into a little bit of what I experienced as we're having the conversation. But tell us a little bit about what I didn't share that you want to make sure we share. And then, we'll get into it.
Just about Reiki in general? Okay, so I'll kind of give you like a synopsis here. Reiki, really what it boils down to is that it's nervous system healing. It's a way to use universal life force energy that we all have because we're electric beings. We use that to regulate our nervous system so that way we have more emotional regulation. We can use our muscles, our joints better, our whole entire body. So it's your rest and digest function that kicks in and starts to regulate you. So that way, you can move forward in life pretty smoothly.
Right. Yeah. I love that. I love that. Thank you. So tell me how you got started doing Reiki.
Oh gosh. That's a long story too. So, I'll kind of make that one kind of short too.
Okay.
Because that's what led me on my whole journey. So I had a whole bunch of different injuries. I ended up finding out that I had a whole bunch of different injuries from one injury.
Okay.
And then it just went down the rabbit hole and trying to find the root cause of everything. Had a lot of different doctors. Maybe it was like, I think it was like 15 or 16 at the time that had seen different specialists.
Wow.
And they were no help. Just trying to give me medication, things of that nature. So, but each one ended up finding out something else was going on inside the body. I had peripheral neuropathy, gout, arthritis, vertigo. I was losing my hearing. I was losing my sight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Low blood circulation, pain everywhere, fascial adhesions, scar tissue, drop foot, just that was just a couple of things like we ended up finding out through the whole process,
right?
And it wasn't until I went to a holistic doctor, and then that I was able to start getting better, start getting into the holistic field, because Western medicine wasn't working for me. So when I started going down that field and I started to learn about energy healing, that was pretty new to me. I first started learning about meditation. And I realized that my meditations were pretty powerful. I started seeing different images. I started seeing different things. I started feeling different things in my body. So it's like I want to, explore this further. And then I noticed as I was doing my meditations that, certain parts of my body don't hurt anymore. And it felt like I was sending energy to that place and it was just dissipating. And I was like, okay, so how good can this really get? And so I just inundated myself in it, and start healing my body.
Okay.
And then I was dating someone at the time, and then I realized, I was like, wait, hold on, am I healing you too? You know? And so like it was pretty wild. And that's pretty much how it got started.
Okay. I love that. And I love that you brought up the piece about meditation, because I feel like for many of us, that's usually how we get started in figuring out like how all of these pieces are connected.
Definitely.
I know for me, when I started on my healing journey, it was about like, how do I be still? Because that's my favorite scripture. People, you hear me say that all the time. Be still and know. Psalms 46:10. But when I think about like, how do I do this so that I can bring myself back? So I know you can share some things with us, like about some breathing techniques and stuff like that. But when I think about meditation and that the beginning of that journey, people always struggle because they're like, well, I fall asleep, or I keep moving, or I'm not sitting still enough. And so I've always been, and then you can add your 2 cents about it, but I'm always in the mindset that you have to do what works for you.
100%.
And if that means you start out, I always tell people, just start with 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, you start with 5 minutes, and then you can kind of, work your way up to longer, more intense, because the idea behind it is being able to regulate, which will be a big part of this conversation for sure.
Yeah, that's just the whole part of it. You don't have to. It doesn't have to look aesthetically like you see on Instagram and stuff like that. I think that's where people get caught up, is that they think it's supposed to look a certain way and how it's supposed to feel a certain way. Actually, go into it with no expectations. Go into it with no expectations, see what it gives you. That's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And that's what I did. I went into it no expectations and just received what it was giving me. Don't try to force it to give you something,
right?
And so yes, I mean, just on your point, people have to go with what works with them,
right?
Like breathwork exercises, that's really good, especially if you're new to getting into meditation.
Okay.
That would be the thing to do, because it gives your mind something to hold on, like an anchor to, and then you naturally go into that meditative state.
Right. So can you give the people an example of like starting the process for meditation? Like, what would that look like if someone came to work with you? And I know that it's way more deeper than that. So you know what I'm saying? I know
everyone's different too.
Right. But just kind of like, if you could give kind of like I don't want to say generic, but just kind of like general. A basic 101 general, what that would look like if you're saying, hey, I want you to do some meditation.
Okay. Something I see a lot of times is that people struggle with anxiety, right? So anxiety lives in the gut. So what I would have them do is, while they're doing breath work, they're also manipulating the diaphragm here, so that way it can release. What happens is our diaphragm, we have our psoas muscles, the muscles that are around it, and in this region right here, they contract whenever we are in our fight or flight mode. So if your psoas muscle is super tight and contracted, and you're what I would have you do is, start to manipulate that soft tissue while you're taking deep breaths. So, you'll breathe in like that, and then when you go out,
we'll do a little practice. Come on.
So you breathe in, and then around the belly button region here, then you want to go out and push it while you take another breath in, and then out. And typically do 3. And that should make you a little bit more calmer. And you can start just feeling like the blood flow start to release. And then just make you look more calmer. But just doing breath work, releasing that psoas muscle, so that way your nervous system go into its parasympathetic state, which is the rest and digest state. That's really what we're trying to achieve.
I like that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have another question related to that, then we'll move on to the next thing. But I was thinking about when I was working with this coach previously, and hopefully you will remember the name of this, but I think it's called nostril breathing, where you hold one nostril. Can you kind of explain what that is? Because that was helpful for me to do nostril breathing.
Yeah. So our nostrils are just like brake and gas pedal, right? You know what? Don't quote me on this one.
It's okay.
I typically pull up the diagram.
Okay. Yes, you are the diagram king.
I want to get that. Can I pull it up real
Yes.
quick? Hold on a second here. Hold on a second. I want to give the right information here.
Okay.
Hold on a second.
And then I'll put it up on the screen too, like when we.
Okay. So the left is the brake. Okay. Yeah. So I wanted to get that right. The left
Okay.
is the brake, and the right is the gas pedal. Okay. So So yeah. So the left is the brake.
Okay, so left is brake.
So when you're breathing through this nostril right here, you're activating the parasympathetic state,
Okay.
which is the rest and digest. And then when you do this, you're activating the sympathetic nervous system.
Got
So
it.
it's more of acceleration.
Okay.
So I did notice on this one you're right dominant. Though.
Yeah, we figured that out when we was working together.
Yeah.
And I have this. So tell people what the piece is in your nose, because you had me get that, and I do use it at nighttime, y'all. I don't be in videos with it, but it is helpful. And sometimes during the day I'll have it, because I know you were like, you can just wear it whenever.
100%.
And it definitely opens up and
Helps you to regulate. And so this is a nasal dilator. So I use it whenever I'm just feeling that my nervous system needs to be more balanced.
Right.
I use it at those times. So I could typically go through a lot of the day using it.
Right.
Just because I feel more calmer. I feel more centered and grounded. And just regulated. So
I love it. I love it. I hope the people are taking notes, because it's important to do so. So tell me a little bit about your education background, and like how you, because I don't know if it's fully connected, but you could share that.
No, it's not connected to this industry. I actually was in the corporate world before. I was in hospitality administration.
Okay.
So I went to SFA, Axman Jacks, and for hospitality administration. So I was in the hotel and restaurant industry for a good amount of my life, and I was a general manager and all those roles, and that was another thing too that really took a toll on my nervous system. You know, working all those hours, because in that industry, you definitely and as a GM too, I really take pride in my work. So even though I can make my schedule, I was working like 80 hours a week. Just because I was like, well, it's my store. I got to make sure everything's perfect. So all these awards I'm winning and stuff. It's just, it's just feeding that dopamine.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it did get to the point where my nervous system was just so out of whack, and my body just shut down on me. So I definitely see the importance of not just taxing your body and running at full speed all the time without doing these practices.
Right.
Because I had to heal many years because of that. It took 3 or 4 years to really get my nervous system regulated to the point where it needed to be, because of all of the years of dysregulation.
And it's interesting you say that, because I feel like society doesn't really allow us time.
100% doesn't.
Right. Especially when you're like in the workforce and you're, exactly what you just described. It's like, well, when do I get to just kind of take care of myself and get regulated and get my thoughts and my mind and my spirit and all these things together? You know what I'm saying?
I find that once you get it to a point that it's regulated for you, like their baseline's good.
Right.
I find that regular maintenance is easy to do throughout the day. You don't
So
have to
talk
have
about
specific.
baseline.
Baseline is okay. So most people have a baseline of anxiety, or baseline of anxiety. So what happens is that you wake up in the morning. Let's say your baseline's at 60%. Like you're 60% anxious all the time. Like you don't ever go below that baseline, just because of certain, number one, structural things that are going on in the
environment.
body. Yeah. So if you have any kind of misalignment within your cervical joints, your baseline for anxiety is already up here. Until you get that cervical joint fixed,
Right.
it's not going to ever go down below
Okay.
that baseline. So that's the reason why it's important to do soft tissue work. It's important to go to chiropractors. It's important to do nervous system healing, to make sure that you fix your body and get into alignment,
Right.
or that baseline won't ever go down. So that's
Right.
what I mean by when I say baseline.
Okay. Because when I think about baseline from a mental health perspective, it's kind of what you described, but along the lines of this is where this person kind of is, and then either they're up here or they're down here. So it's kind of the middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you say, for example, someone comes in to work with you and they're saying, hey, my anxiety is at 80%, pretty much 7 days a week when I get up. Give some examples of how you would talk to them about regulating that.
Approach that. If it's at 80%, then I know already there are some beliefs that you hold on to that are definitely keeping it on autopilot, so definitely going to go into rewiring the brain through neuroplasticity practices. So that would be one thing that's definitely going to have to, because you can regulate, you can do all the things to the body, but if your mind, if you stay with those thoughts, it's just going to keep triggering that same process over and over and over.
Yeah. So that's the mindset shift, people.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, unlearn to relearn. So definitely have them unlearning, have them evaluate their beliefs that they have, evaluate their beliefs and say, hey, are these beliefs that I took on, or were these beliefs that were forced upon me?
Right.
So you have to go through and just reevaluate your inventory of beliefs, right? Like going through your computer system and see what is outdated and what needs to be updated. Update your software.
I love that. Yeah. Because we can have some beliefs that our parents put
100%.
on us, that the church put on us, 100%. That friends put on us. So kind of getting back to, is it something that you believe, or is it something that somebody told you should be believing?
Yeah.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt. Hope you're enjoying the show. I need you guys to do me a huge favor. This is a great episode with Eric. I know you guys are watching and enjoying. Can you like, subscribe, and share? You know the red button. Click it. Okay, back to the episode. Oh, I think that's
That's what you have to do first.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the first step. And then if you can do it at the same time, then I challenge the client to do that practice along with the body work. The body work is very important as well too. The body work allows you space to be able to create those changes. Because we talked about the baseline, right? It puts a space between you and that trigger.
Right.
So if your body's less tense, guess what? You won't trigger as fast. If your body's super tense, you're going to trigger real fast. You don't have any space between you and that trigger. So you're automatically going to react.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the less tense your body is, the more time you have to react to whatever's triggering you.
Right.
And you can decide, do I want to go forward with this, or do I want to take a different approach?
I love that. So I feel like, and I'm trying to correlate like the physical to the mental. So that would be something, if someone came to me, I would say, I need you to count from 1 to 10 to kind of bring yourself back down, which is what you're describing kind of in the body as well.
Yeah.
So kind of the same thing. And you may say that as well, but just trying to make some connections between like how the mind and the body work together.
100%.
is what we're saying.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I love that. So in this practice, would you say that now, how long have you been doing?
4 years now.
Okay. So first of all, I thought it had been probably 15 or 20 because he's absolutely amazing. But.
Thank you.
Okay. And I know that you take it so serious because I remember like when I came to your office, you were like, this is his diagram and I after we work together, you would like point out different things and how they're connected. So can you talk about that a little bit? And I'll share that diagram in the story about how some of those things are connected.
Yeah, so like every part of the body holds emotion. Like I was talking about how anxiety is in the gut, right? Also too, how like we have anger, like a lot of repressed anger is going to be here in the jaw.
Okay.
We tend to clench our jaws, and that's where people end up getting like TMJ and
I had it.
tinnitus, things of that nature because of that emotion. And people don't understand that emotions have physiological consequences, right? Like, so whenever you experience emotion, there's a physiological action that's correlated with that. You just don't pay attention to it. When you're happy, you tend to smile, right? So you're gonna use these muscles, right? Like, so there's always a physiological component to it.
So like, can you make some reference to, because when you just said that, I thought about like, I know several people who have migraine headaches. So like, what would that be connected to?
They're using their prefrontal cortex a lot. These are people that cannot really turn that off. So if you're constantly analyzing things and always thinking about things, you're using your prefrontal cortex. And if that doesn't turn off, then it's gonna cause tension within the head. Right? Your fascia is gonna be tight within the head, and occipital, occipital region in here is gonna be super tight. And then that's gonna cause you headaches. Those nerves are being pinched. And being compressed. So
they're like overworking that.
Yeah, you're overworking it.
Muscle. Okay. Yeah, wow. Interesting. Okay. I like it. Yeah. I like it. I have a couple questions. I don't know. Oh, we're doing good on time. Can you talk about, because I know pre us having a little conversation, when we were talking about getting started about regulation, because I had made the thought I wanted to talk about rest and something I said, and you were like, well, no, it's not really rest. So can you talk about the regulation and the difference in, you know what I'm saying?
The difference in as far as, okay, so regulating, I would say this. Regulating is rest, but it's work at the same time, right?
That's where we're going to get to the work part. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So when you're regulating, you're using, you're going to be using different modalities. It could either be body work, it could be sound healing, it could be all kinds of things, right? You can do humming, you can do all the different kind of things to regulate, right? But all those things do require work. And they require a certain amount of focus, and so if you're not used to doing those things, it can be pretty taxing, you know what I mean? Because it's not natural for you.
Right.
So those things could definitely feel like work. At the same time, you are getting the benefit from them, right? So you regulating is essentially putting your body at rest, So that's how I look at it. It's not just lay down and do nothing, and that's rest. You know, I think we have to redefine what rest is. Is rest you being regulated? You know what I mean?
Right.
What is rest?
And regulation, I feel like, is the practice. Yeah. So kind of like some of the things that we've talked about, like the breath work, meditation. Another example, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, these are the things, and I think I talk about this a lot when I talk about like working with clients. Like, you can come to me and say, hey, I need help. You're a therapist. Fix me. And I'm going to say, hey, here's some things that I need you to do. Yeah, and come back and tell me what you did in this homework. Yeah. Right? The regulation, the practice, like, you have to do the work.
100% you have to do the work. The practitioner is not going to do the work for you. Even as a practitioner, I wouldn't. I mean, could you do... if you finagle some things, maybe you could. It's, number one, it's gonna be really expensive. Yeah, it's gonna be really expensive. But also too, it's not good, because what happens now when you're not there,
right? Exactly.
So the person has to do the work. Yeah.
And so, what have you seen when? This is kind of tricky, but if you're working with someone and either they're doing the work or they're not? Like, how can you tell the difference?
Oh yeah, I mean, I could definitely tell the difference. I can read the nervous system, so that's the psychic part that comes in. The psychic part is that I can, when I go into my meditative state, I can see your whole entire nervous system.
Right.
So it's like I can, and even without going to med, I can feel it right now. I can feel where the energy is going throughout your body and where it gets blocked and things of that nature. So if I'm feeling that it's more blocks than you came with, the previous week, then I know you're not continuing that forward momentum. You're not doing the homework. Could there have been a tragic event that happened or something like that? Yeah, but then that's when I would talk to you about it. I was like, I'm feeling this, and I was just talking about it. Hey, what happened, or did something? If nothing happened, then you probably not doing work,
So this will be a little controversial because some people, when they think about psychic and mediums and all those things, because my experience with you was definitely like, I'm like, did he know my like he moved through me, honey, and listen, he touched on some things and some things I had almost forgotten about, and I was just like, okay, like this is real. And at that time we met, like we weren't like following each other on social media, so he knew nothing about me and was able to like make the connection. But I have to say, and I think it's important when people are thinking about, trying Reiki. Am I pronouncing it right?
Yeah.
When they're, thinking about even trying it, it's like you do have to be open to the process.
100%.
Talk a little bit about that.
So it's funny because I don't really mention the psychic portion too much, just because number one, I'm really also grounded in, I'm a math and science guy, so I'm real analytical, and that's the way my brain kind of works, right? And so it took me a long time to even accept it. It took me about 2 years to really accept, like, oh no, I really do have this psychic gift. You know what I mean? And then, but it took a lot of me doing a lot of research and understanding how is this working.
Right.
Like I just couldn't accept it as far as like, oh, you just got this gift. Like, okay, but how is it working? I have to figure out the processes. I need to learn everything I can about the nervous system. I need to understand what conscious states am I entering. Like I had to understand metaphysics. I had to understand all of these things to fully understand my gift. And then, studying all those things. And now I fully understand it. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot of science to it, but also is it a spiritual gift? Yeah, it is too.
Right.
So that's how I came to accept that. Yeah, did I answer? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you feel like, and this is more in the realm of mental health, would you consider yourself to be neurodivergent?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Talk a little bit about it.
Okay, so I don't really go too much on titles.
Okay.
So, I heard some things about neurodivergency, and I was like, okay, yeah, that kind of fits. But I don't like to label myself.
Right.
Like,
that's why you're out the box.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Out the box. That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
Like, I don't really like to say, like I just told you, like I don't even like to just be like, oh, I'm a psychic. Some people can take on that entire character, right? Like, oh, I'm a psychic, and start dressing up like in the things and stuff like that. I'm a regular guy just walking down the street, like, and I just feel and see all these things all the time, But I don't have to. My whole thing was, when I had my spiritual journey, I didn't want to. I was a character before my spiritual journey, right? Because I think that when you don't even understand ego is protective personality. That's what it is. It's your protective personality. It's this personality that you build as a character, But when you shed all that and you become no one, no person in no time, that's when you truly figure out who you are.
I love that. Let's just hold on to that for like a second, because that's deep.
Yeah, it is. It is. Experiencing it was deep. You know, you're a blank slate. You're nothing. Like, you're absolute nothing. You're just experiencing the world.
Yeah.
And when you can shed that identity, and then create a whole new one too. That's what I did. I had to shed my complete identity and create a whole new one. So, but doing that, like I said, in that experience of being no one, it let me know that, like, that's not, you know what I mean? I don't have to take on another character.
Right.
And so that's why I don't really put on titles and stuff. I just be me. I do whatever that flows, whatever I feel naturally resonates.
Right.
You know, that didn't resonate. Like, oh, just because you're psycho, let's start dressing up. Let's get all the bowls. Let's do it. Like, no,
Right.
it didn't resonate.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that because I kind of feel the same way. Like when I think about who I am, right? And, you know, there's this like running joke amongst people who know me that I have all these names, right? So there's Clarindria, there's Monique, there's Mo, there's Momo. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just me, right? And I think for me, it's like, it just depends on kind of like where I am, what I have going on. And I don't want to have to be defined by, but I also don't want to be judged by, you know what I'm saying?
100%.
So, and I get society, we, you know, there are some, you know, there's an environment for different experiences, different things and da da da. But I have been really working hard to just be what you're describing. Like, I want to just be, either you like it or you love it or don't. And that's okay.
Yeah. 100%.
Either way, I'm still going to
I have to live my life for, I
have to live my life for me. So I love that you brought that up because I think that a lot of people struggle with that. And then you want to have this one definition, but we aren't just one thing.
No, not at all. We're multidimensional. So, yeah, we're not, we have several different layers. It's just that do you want to tap into that, you know? And it takes courage. It takes courage, definitely.
Lots of courage.
100%.
Talk about the courage.
The courage?
I like it.
Well, the courage, I think I had a natural courage, just because, number one, I was going through all those illnesses, right? Like, I had all those illnesses, I had all these things that were going on with me. And it was either do or die.
Okay.
So it was like, you have to go through this transformation or just die. Like, so I think a lot of times too, people need those situations to really make change. And maybe I did need that happened to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know, like I said, you come out through it though, you make your pain your purpose, right? And so that's what I did, you know. But yeah, it took courage.
How do you feel like it affected your relationship? Like your personal relationships, family? You want to talk a little bit about that?
So with family, in the beginning, it was pretty crazy just because, you know, like, again, they know me as this very analytical math and science guy, like very, like, I didn't believe in anything mystical really too much, you know what I mean? And so all of a sudden, you know, I'm coming out like, hey, Mom, I have these, like, superpowers. I'm doing this and that. Yeah, you need to go in a loony bin. You know, but no, I you know, and then trying to explain to them, you know, what exactly the science behind it and stuff like that. You know, you still kind of have to have a foundation of that stuff.
Right.
I had a science background too, so you know, I understood as I was reading these things. I understood the science of it too. You know, but if they don't understand that, you know, it's speaking a different language. You know, and so that was definitely have to work through that. And then friends, you know, you're gonna have people that you're not on the same frequency with anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? Your whole entire life is changing. So you're not gonna have the same friends. You know, I lost a lot of friends. And you have to just rebuild. You're rebuilding new. You know.
Yeah. Would you say that losing friendships now, when you look back on it, like, do you have any thoughts or reflection around it, or you just feel like that was like a part of the growth journey? Because I've been doing, and I asked that because I've been doing these series about friendship, guilty by association, how to be a good friend, over the last couple weeks. And I think that sometimes we outgrow people. Yeah. And, you know, it's for a period. It doesn't mean that person doesn't necessarily come back. Yeah. But so speak to your experience with that a little bit.
My experience with that was that it was the right thing. You know, it was the right thing definitely for that moment, because I felt like if I would have kept to those, attachments of those friendships, then it would have stifled my growth. You know, it would have definitely played your friends influence you, right? Like, so it definitely would have played a role in how far do I dive into this? You know what I mean? Losing our friendships and stuff, it did. I now had an open window to fully explore these things without like being judged and stuff like that. Yeah. I was my only person. Right. You know, it was just me and God. Right. So, you know, I did have the freedom to just explore without having having to quote unquote answer to someone, I guess. Right. You know? So, I feel like, it happened when it needed to. And, you throughout life, again, you'll create more connections that, resonate with this new you.
Right. I find it to be a little challenging.
You find it to be challenging?
Yeah.
To what?
To make connections with people who just get you for you being you. For me being me. I've found it to be challenging. So I feel like there's maybe more work that I still got to do.
Yeah, I think so. Because, 100%. Because as you be your authentic self, it's actually... People naturally gravitate towards you. Yeah, like they're naturally gonna like that because they can feel that authenticity. They can feel that the magnetism behind that. So there may be some deep rooted things that
So now I got a history now. I'm still letting go of some of the trauma. So and I've come a long way. I will have to say I've come a long way, but definitely still like releasing some of those things that I'm sure are probably barriers to being able to gradually move on from that. So thank you. So I have some questions that I usually ask people.
Okay.
But I want to make sure I feel like we hit on all the points of regulation. Right, we talked about meditation,
breath work, body work, getting the body work done. Also to rewind.
Now let's fix that because you said get the body work done. We ain't talking about no BBLs. And CTVs and whatever.
Nothing like
Tell
that.
them what you mean when you say get the body work done, so the people understand the shifters.
When I say body work, I mean using different modalities like myofascial release. Something called rolfing, acupuncture, regular massages in general.
What about cupping? That
cupping,
would be one of
perfect.
them. Okay.
Yeah, I use cupping all the time.
Okay.
So cupping, gua sha. Gua sha is a great practice to do.
Yep, you had me get gua sha.
Yeah,
I have
gua sha,
those.
that helped me tremendously through my whole journey. Cupping and gua sha were my main two go-tos.
Okay.
Just because it breaks up the fascia tissue, helps remodel the tissue, and then the cupping brings in that blood flow, opens up the tissue as well too. Those I found to be very, very helpful.
Okay, good. Thank you. I love that. Now I do have one question that just came into my mind because you talked about with the gashwa. Is that how you say it?
Gua sha.
Gua sha. And related to like skin, like eczema and things like that. Again, is that something that's like all connected? And I have this because I had somebody that I was giving some kind of natural things that I knew about from my son having it and sharing. So just curious to know.
Yeah, a lot of them are derived from some kind of imbalance within the nervous system. So it definitely can be. I wouldn't say at all, you know what I mean, but definitely some. Yeah,
okay.
Definitely some.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I have these little questions that I ask at the. I'm not gonna call my questions little. We're gonna say.
There we go.
If you could host a dinner, with 1 to 3 people, dead or alive, who and what's a question that you would ask?
One, let's say George Washington. Then it's one. You said what question would I ask him? What is, or it would be was, right? Because it would become okay. So like, what was your intention for the Republic? I guess. Yeah. What was your intention?
Interesting.
Yeah. Another person. Michael Jackson. What resonated with you the most throughout his entire career? I just want to know what resonated with. What did he resonate with the most through his entire career? Another person. Martin Luther King
Mm-hmm.
Where did he get his courage from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Whew. Okay. One piece of advice related to healing and entrepreneurship that you would share with the shifters. And I know that's those are too broad, but
One piece of advice related to healing. One piece of advice related to healing. One of the biggest ones, I would say, it's kind of go back to what I went to before and said, as far as getting the body work done. That's huge. If you don't do anything else, do gua sha. Like, I think that's the biggest thing. It's going to help create space within the body. And once you start to have space within the body, then you're able to start to make changes, right? Cognitively as well. So, just getting some space into your body, That's one of my biggest tips.
okay.
And you said, what was the second part?
For entrepreneurship, because you are an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
You run your own system of seeing clients and all of that.
So a tip for entrepreneurship would be to make sure that you do your healing first before you actually enter entrepreneurship. Because if not, just like your relationships.
And I ain't tell him to say that, y'all, because I talk about that all the time. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No problem. Just how you enter into relationships without doing any trauma healing, and the traumas show up in those relationships, and ultimately failing. It's the same thing will happen with your business.
Right. Wow. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Last question. What's one piece of wisdom or mantra that you live by that you can share with the shifters?
I would say my mantra is I'm always healing. I'm always healing. That is what I go by daily, is I'm always healing. I'm always doing some kind of healing practices. Even while we're talking right now, right? I have this acupressure pad on right now, like, that's stimulating the nerves and regulating the nervous system. So I'm always doing things to propel me forward.
Right. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Always healing, always growing, never grown. I want to say, make sure you follow Out the Box Healing on Instagram. Is that all of your social media? Do you have TikTok? Do you have?
Yeah. I
Okay.
have TikTok as well. And it's the same handle, Out the Box Healing.
Okay. So we'll put that down so y'all can get the Out the Box Healing. He gives so many great little short, obviously we know these are short videos, but trust and believe you will get some tools. And then as you start getting the free tools, book a session here in Houston. He's also been traveling. I know you did a little Dallas thing recently. And, depending on your city, maybe if you get enough people to, make a note in the comments, make some noise, he might come to your city.
Yeah.
But I thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Remember, the shift is happening now. Thank you for tuning in to Shift Chats. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Remember, every shift starts with one single step, so keep making moves. Till next time, stay focused, stay empowered, and keep shifting. Remember, the shift is happening now.